Dude, we're gonna have to use this.
Got some paperwork too.
Oh,
some Walmart labels.
We got the truck hooked up to the open trailer, which means we're obviously going to get something. Now, normally that would mean a car, but this is something that to me is more exciting. We're going to get a piece of equipment. This is something I've always wanted, and we have a project where we need one. Now, we could either rent one, or we could spend a little more money and buy one, and then we have it for the next time we need it, which I think there will be plenty of next times. At least that's how I'm justifying it to myself. So truck, open trailer. I'm hoping this trailer will work for picking this thing up. It's rated for it, the weight wise and stuff. It's gonna be potentially a little tricky getting it on the trailer. We won't really know till we get there and take a look at it, but it seems like a decent rig. If all is well, we're gonna buy it, bring it home, and start using it. So I'm pretty excited. Hopefully this all goes well. Let's hit the road. All right, well, we are back at the shop empty-handed. We do not have a forklift. I walked away. It was the cheapest running, working forklift without any known major issues that I could find, but it was a little bit rougher in person. You know, some of the stuff wasn't working, the idle up features, and the tires were missing big chunks, and it just, looking at it, it looked like this is most likely gonna be a headache. So we found an alternative option, and this time we're using Raldo and Josue's trailer. It's a much better setup for hauling something like this. Mine's purely set up for a car, and the ramp situation should hopefully work. There's still a question mark there on whether or not we're gonna be able to get this thing on the trailer. So anyway, trailer, truck, take two.
Try it though. Doing older, we go a smidge forward more on the trailer so the lift becomes less. It ain't gonna. It's not gonna move down any further.
No, I think then we'll have a drop in, basically. I mean, we're getting somewhere. We're halfway.
You don't know where that stainless steel. Remember them sheets of stainless steel are? Oh yeah, that's right. That's what we need.
That was a struggle.
That was not as easy as expected.
This thing is slammed. Tricky. It's up here though. Kind of tarp it. Got it draped up. All right.
Everything's up.
stuck in there.
Maybe a little low. Gotta go for it.
So we really wanted to make driving this thing off the trailer work just because it was really the simplest, most well-known option. However, I had my doubts that it was going to work. This thing is incredibly low. So we tried to put this piece of wood under the drive wheel to see if that would help us get over the hump. We had put this wood on the dovetail to help smooth the transition, and nothing was working. It just was not going to happen. We could have made it happen if we had to, but there's a better option, a simpler option. So lifting this thing off the trailer with the 2-post lift was the most logical option. However, it's not like something you normally lift with a 2-post lift. We can't just stick the lift arms under it and pick it up off the trailer. So we tried to get this thing as centered between the lift post as possible. And the idea is what we're going to wrap around the frame of the forklift to lift it up is also going to pull the arms together and basically pinch the tower on this walkie stacker. So that way it can't lean backwards or forwards. That's going to be the trickiest part here. If we can keep it level and keep it upright, the lift's going to have no problem yanking this thing off. It's just a matter of that combination of things that we need to get right so this isn't too sketchy. So we got it all set up, and it's time to give it a shot.
That was stressful. This is why I don't hang out with you guys.
Can't hang. They did come loose. Still runs.
Ride on.
Oh my gosh, you almost fall.
In a world of ocean violation.
That's pretty tall.
Not too shabby. Not too bad.
Yeah, that's really perfect.
Oh, like are you going to take that off every time?
No. It was just for getting it on the trailer.
Oh.
It's got to come back. I can't even.
Oh my goodness.
Your hat's in the way. All right, well, we managed to get this thing off the trailer a lot easier than it went on. Definitely using the lift was the way to do it. It's just these things are low, man. This is like the lowest vehicle I own. This thing is slammed, dude, especially when you see the back door. I mean, this thing is super duper low. So Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on this purchase. This is really what I wanted originally, and I was gonna settle for getting a forklift, even though it wasn't really right for, I mean, this is not a big shop. This isn't the type of shop you run a forklift around in, but this was really what I wanted. They're just a little bit harder to find. But we found this one. Definitely needs some love, but everything seems to work on it, at least right now. Hopefully that stays true at least for a little while. At least till we get through this project, which you'll see more of later, that is pretty much the whole reasoning for buying this thing. But again, this is something we've made do without for a long time, and it'll be really nice to have for a lot of future projects. So jibber jabber, point is, this is a Crown Walkie Stacker BS2300-40. So it's a 3,500 pound unit, pretty beefy deal. The batteries seem to be good. The batteries have been holding in there well. Got your main kill switch and then your key. Battery's still full. So before we put this thing straight into hard labor, we want to get it spruced up. We want to go through it, get it cleaned up, get everything greased up nicely. Obviously, we got to fix up some of this plastic, figure out a latch for this so we're not using a bungee cord, get some paint on it, give her a little refurb.
Bring her up to our standards. Play with it a little bit.
Yeah, just have some fun.
How high is that? Would you say?
It's gotta be like 10, 11 feet. Definitely high enough to get on the loft whenever we have a loft built, for sure. And then also you can go.
Oh yeah.
That little feature's nifty for sure. And a little lip test here. Obviously I can just, I'm a little off.
That is nice. Oh, watch the back, Dolly. Watch the back.
Should have weight on it now. We used to have one of these when I went to DC, and this is how, instead of having to walk behind it, you just.
Totally safe.
It's so cool. It's like, we're such nerds. I don't know. It's just the fact that like you get a car and it's, I mean, you know what to expect with a car. And I knew what to expect with this, but it's just exciting. Like we got a thing that can lift things 11 feet in the air.
Right.
3,500 pounds.
We're going up.
And once we put the thing back on, we got to ride it up. I want to ride it up. We're going to make a little pallet, a ride-up pallet with a board. We got lots to do, so I'm going to quit jibber jabber and we're going to get to work.
Clean her up, fresh paint job. Lipstick on a pig.
Why are you calling her a pig already, dude? What did she do to you?
There's an expression.
Here, before you vacuum me, get on here.
No.
You're going up.
Heck no.
Just a foot. I'm not going to be bad, I promise.
dude.
Get on it. Get on it. You just got to feel it. It's cool. Get on it.
Here, the vacuum. I'm gonna hold it.
That's fine.
Like nothing. Pretty sweet.
So the first order of business was to get this thing cleaned up so we have kind of a fresh base to start with and we can see what's going on, what kind of leaks we may have, what leaks we don't have, hopefully. But there's just a lot of grease and grime in here and the grease traps the dirt and this was in, a relatively dusty shop. So there's a lot of built up, caked up dirt and grime from over the years. So it's going to take some time to get this cleaned off. So we're using these cleaning wipes to wipe down the plastic. Josue's using a mix of basically spraying it with compressed air to break the debris free and then vacuum the debris out. And then we're going to start working on cleaning up the outside. We want to get this thing painted just because why not? We might as well start with a nice fresh base and it'll look pretty cool and it'll be pretty satisfying of a little transformation anyway. So there's a lot of tape and gunk and just random adhesive and old duct tape residue and stuff all over this thing, which is not going to be very conducive to painting. So we worked on getting that cleaned up and trying to get it in all the cracks and crevices. You can see the bottom of the forklift here. There is a ton of grime trapped in this little cavity. So we're not going to go crazy and literally tear the whole thing down to the bare bones just yet. We just want to get it a base cleanup so we know kind of what we're working with, what grease is new and what grease is old. All right, well, we got this thing pretty stripped down, pretty opened up. Taking a look at everything, getting everything cleaned out. Years of gunk in some of these places. You can see all that stuff. This is still gunky, and there's that much gunk that came out of it. But here you got, this is basically all battery. This whole section is just battery. And then this is basically all the mechanical parts. Electric motor, electric over hydraulic deal, all that stuff is back here. Solenoids, all that. So pretty straightforward. But we're cruising right along, but we do need to see if we can actually get it outside. There is no whip into my shop, so I think it'll go out. Stand some grease in here. Yeah, that thing is heavy. We're gonna have to use this thing.
Some paperwork too. Oh, some
battery.
Walmart label.
I don't know if I want to risk taking it out there yet. Maybe a little bit. I think the only problem we have is at the very end.
And maybe.
Yeah, I think it still might go over that. Probably shouldn't risk it right now.
Not right now, but we can definitely get around the driveway.
Oh, hold on. This thing gets a little bit of torque steer. Hell yeah.
Boom.
So sick. So sick. Yeah, that thing's a rig. So after we were done messing around and testing out all this thing's features, it was time to get back to work. Time to get to work on painting this thing. Now, fortunately, the majority of the body panels come off, so we were able to bring them outside here to paint them separately, which is always the way to do it if you can. So we got them pulled outside. We went ahead and cleaned them up, got them all sanded and everything ready to go, and then threw a couple thick coats of primer just to fill in some of the scratches and gouges. I normally don't primer things because I'm usually in a hurry, but this time we're trying to take our time and do it right because there's a very, very slim chance we're ever going to take this thing apart and paint it again. I mean, that's kind of why we're doing it now. We know if we put this thing right into service, we'll never get around to it. And, you know, what's the harm in sprucing it up? So once we had the primer on the outside parts that we could remove, it was time to start working on painting the parts on the machine that we can't remove, which is mainly the frame and the forks. So we're using this Rust-Oleum roll-on paint. This stuff is great. I am not in any way affiliated with Rust-Oleum, but I have used this on my trailer a couple of times, the back floor of the garage and the bus, and it has held up incredibly well. It comes out really, really glossy and smooth. I'm really impressed with this stuff. I can't say enough good things about it, and it covers really well. So you can knock out a pretty big surface area of paint pretty quickly with a roller and a brush. So once we had the first coat done on the frame, we could move back outside to start putting the first coat on the exterior panels. Trying to work efficiently here and bounce back and forth. There's nothing worse than sitting on your hands while you wait for paint to dry. So I threw a coat of black on the side panels, and then the back panel we're going to do two-tone since that's kind of what it came factory. We're just going to change up the colors a little bit. So I don't have the same cream white that came on the machine. I just have this gloss white. So we're going to try it, see how it works, and then worry about the two-tone portion of it later. So I went back and did a second coat on everything. It's not a question of if this machine gets ran into something, but when. And it's not a big deal, but we might as well make it extra thick and extra durable. So we wanted to go ahead and paint this red too, which is going to be our accent color, because we're not sure if we're going to put it back on, but we're definitely not going to put it back on if it's unpainted, so we might as well paint it now, and that way whenever we're ready we can. While we were waiting for paint to dry, again, it was time to get back to the little odds and ends of this machine. The trim piece here was just sitting there, so I found some bolts for that and worked on little things like that, just tidying things up. And then the paint had dried enough for me to go ahead and mask off the white and start working on the red two-tone. Now immediately I realized that my non-lazy self was right, and we needed to mask the rest of this thing off. That is the thing with spray paint, you know, in ways it's easier, but to get the job to come out right, you've got to do the same amount of prep work that you would if you were painting something for real. So one of those things, we had the spray cans, that's why we went the spray paint route, and I just had to take some time and mask it up a little bit better so I didn't get a ton of overspray on our other fresh paint. But all in all, it came out pretty good. It's looking nice and glossy, kind of hides the scratches and the gouge marks, so things are coming together. Now, one more thing I wanted to paint with the accent color was these slashes here, so you can see the end of the forks. Now, the tricky part is to mask them off, I've got to get real precise with the razor knife, and this is, I would say, not necessarily my forte, but I'm going to give it a shot because it's the little touches like this that are, one, make the difference, and two, are just so satisfying. It's so rewarding when you mask something off right and you paint it and you get to pull the tape off on some fresh paint and see the end result. So I took my time, I got the slashes cut out with the razor knife, taped up all the excess while I was waiting for the first coat of the red to dry so that I could come back and give it a second coat and then come back and paint my slash marks in and immediately pull the tape, because this paint on the forks is still not fully cured. It still could use some time, so I didn't want to leave the tape on there for too long. And same goes for the back panel. I wanted to get the tape off as soon as I was done spraying it, and all in all, it came out pretty good. The two-tone combo looks nice. Everything smoothed out nicely. I'm not sure I'm in love with the color combo, but we'll see how it is once it's all put back together on the machine. So now it's time to work on that, the mechanical side of things. We need to fix the way that this panel latches onto the machine so we don't have to use a bungee cord to strap it in every time. All right, all of our body panels have been painted. Pretty happy with how this came out. This red ended up being pretty much exactly what we were looking for, just trying to blend in with all the Milwaukee red that is everywhere in this shop. So back is painted, side panels are painted, and the main frame is painted. Pretty happy with how that came out. Even put the little hash marks back in red, of course, to match. Stoked on that. That was definitely really tricky to tape off, but came out pretty good, especially from a distance. It looks A1. So I'm pretty pumped. This thing's really coming together. We've got everything cleaned out back here. We've looked through everything. Something on the agenda is definitely to replace the wheels. They're just all pretty beat up and cracked, so I'd like to get those replaced and check through anything else, but the hydraulic fluid looks good. Still need to grease some stuff up. So yeah, that being said, I think this should be dry enough, hopefully. It's close. I think I can put this on without completely ruining the paint. I'm getting antsy. I did retap these and retap this spot here, so hopefully we can bolt this door closed and not have to bungee cord it. I hate stuff like that. One way or another, I'm gonna determine a way to not have to bungee cord it, but hopefully the factory way is that way. So jibber jabber, it's time to put this thing back together and see what it looks like as one complete finished unit. Pretty excited about this. This is very satisfying. Fortunately, this thing is pretty easy to assemble and disassemble. We've just got to pop these side panels in. One's pretty easy, the other one got bent at some point, definitely ran into something, so it's a little tricky, but other than that, it's not too bad. The rear panel is super heavy. I mean, this is solid thick steel, so trying to get the hinges to line up can be a little difficult, but I put some extra grease in there. It made the process a little bit simpler. So now we've just got to toss this trim panel back on. Fortunately and surprisingly, all of the hardware is here, so I was pleasantly surprised by that. And then we can see if we can bolt this door closed with these longer bolts and these retapped holes, and what do you know, it works. Look at that old R2 looking brand new. Oh, it's the little things, I swear. It made a massive difference though. I mean, the fresh black, the fresh white and red. I don't know if red was the right call. Probably cleaner to do black, but you know, we got white and red up here. You know, it fits. But yeah, now check it out as a complete rig. Brand new. I'm pumped. Oh, R2 looking good as new. Boom. So getting pumped on that, dude. Oh man, I'm so excited about this. This thing looks so good. Really the only thing that feels off on this thing is just the wheel. You can feel it's a little bumpy. It's time to put it to work, but if we didn't do it now, it probably never would have got done. I am a little on the fence about the white and red combo. I think I like the red. I think the white is just too much of a plain white when this is more of a cream. I think that's what's throwing it off. So we might tinker with that later, but we're really happy to have the bolts back in here. No more bungee cord. It's the little things. So super stoked. This turned out great. What do you think, Josue? How do you feel about R2?
I'm excited. Nicely restored.
Right?
It's ready for work.
So it's time to put it to use. First thing we need to do to test this thing out is try to rearrange this. Basically, the lift is in the way of the lift. We got to kind of clear this space out and only put the pieces that we need here. So it's time for old R2's first job.
All right, what's the move?
Let's move the forks in one notch on each side. So we went ahead and moved the forks in so that they could get under our dollies a little bit better and help us move this stuff around. Now, the downside is any sort of machine in this shop is a little bit tricky to maneuver. You don't have a lot of room to move it around. So while it's helping us, it's also kind of tricky, and sometimes you've got to just realize that it's easier to just push the piece on a dolly, but it's still putting in work. It's still doing the thing. We're going to need it in the future for the projects that we have planned and for assembling this lift. For right now, though, we're just trying to enjoy it and see what its limits are. We don't want to get ready to lift something heavy into place and then find out this thing can't handle it. So this is a good test run just to make sure all systems are go when they're actually being worked and loaded. So we start getting the runway platforms of this lift moved out of the way and ran over to the other side, so that way we'll be able to start assembling the post. And this is really the moment of truth, and everything's going well. This thing is passing with flying colors. It lifts perfectly, no issues at all, doesn't even hesitate. It's smooth up and down. It's really easy to be precise with it, and it rolls around the shop just fine. It's doing everything that we wanted it to do, which is more than I could have hoped for buying the cheapest one I could find on Marketplace. Nice too, because these buttons wow. The buttons aren't just on and off. Like there is a little bit of resolution there.
It is that. You got the right one, Martin.
Because otherwise, if it was just on and off, that would be tricky.
Wow. Get that dolly out the way. Old R2 sled.
All right, we got our first pieces moved with old R2, and it worked perfect. It did great. It didn't struggle a bit. So pretty dang stoked with this thing. I think this really is kind of the perfect setup for us, for the shop. It's small enough to where we can, shove it under a table somewhere and keep it out of the way, but big enough to do everything we have planned, like building this lift setup, building the loft. One of the biggest things is moving around a mill and a lathe. I've wanted to get a mill and a lathe for years, but my biggest hang up was that I would have no way of getting them off my trailer and moving them around in the shop. I did not want to risk trying to do that with an engine hoist or something. So now that we have this, we could actually get one and move it around. So yeah, moral of the story is very, very happy with this thing so far. Hopefully it hangs in there, because we are going to be putting it to a lot of work over the next few weeks and beyond, but at least we got a nice fresh start. She's looking good. We might change this color up, got to keep her looking fresh, but overall, very pleased with it. So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. We need to get everything ready and set up to start building this lift out. So stay tuned for that, but for now, that's gonna be it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I sure hope I'll see you next time. Goodbye.